at the Supreme Court. We'll discuss the future of Section 230 and much more with Nora Benavidez from the Free Press. This is Bloomberg.
Let's get back to, well, this week's big story on the Hill in the world of technology, Section 230. We're joined now by Nora Benavidez, Senior Counsel and Director of Digital Justice and Civil Rights over at the Free Press. It's an advocacy group that filed one of the amicus briefs in the Google versus Gonzalez case. And you also testified before Congress on the subject previously, Nora. The arguments have been made as to perhaps why, from technology's perspective, it would be wrong to overdo and throw out Section 230 and the protections. But is there nuance to that? Is there ways in which it can be more targeted, more directed, so that it can help push back on hate speech, at least, and some of the harassment?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. What's been difficult about the case this week is that the facts were so tragic. The case stemmed from the killing of a young college student who was traveling abroad, and their family feels that YouTube, and by extension Google, are really aiding and abetting terrorists by recommending terrorist-related content because their child was killed by ISIS. Those are some of the worst facts, and the court has really struggled to grapple this week with where liability should rest. Google argued that it is not liable because it is shielded from suit by Section 230. That protects them, they are arguing. And of course, the family then feels like Google should be liable because it makes recommendations, that its algorithms are giving people content. But it's the first time the court has heard or considered Section 230. And it's really, when you take a step back, a monumental case in that way. I mean, for almost 3 hours, the court wrestled with this question. And I don't know how far they got, but they really tried to consider the distinction, if any, between recommending content versus publishing content.
Yeah, and it felt that they were very aware and voiced it, that they are not technology experts. Ultimately, it felt, dare I say it to generalize, sort of the wrong case for them to be deciding this, because they do want to reassess Section 230, particularly some of the right-leaning justices. Talk to us about whether it can be, in any way, partly updated, Section 230, in the right way from your perspective.
Great question. The justices really covered a wide range of things. I would say they kind of, the full gamut was from caution to confusion, as you say, about the complexities here and the complexities of ruling on something, the potential liability for platforms. Ultimately, I think there seemed to be a recognition from the court that it might not be the right place, the best place to do the balancing and the trade-offs that would be required from amending Section 230. And that modification, if happening at all, needs to come from somewhere else. So that's something that Free Press has been incredibly active on.
Nora, I'm so glad that Caroline asked that question, because for me, the other part of it is that it's not necessarily who should be considering this. What I'm hearing, talking to social media companies, talking also to, different parties to what's going on, is that where do we ask the right questions? And what we're not hearing is what are the technological solutions? In other words, what is it that everyone wants to fix this issue?
Well, everyone loves to debate Section 230, as we know, because of the last week. Some people think that there's a kind of blunt solution. Doing away with it altogether could solve some of the problems on the internet. I just don't think that's the case. Section 230 is a foundational and necessary law for a few reasons. Frankly, it lowers barriers to people sharing their own content online. Without it, platforms would be forced to vet any content that people are posting because, of course, they wouldn't want to then be liable for everything that their users say and do. I think that the test right now should not be whether a platform filters or recommends content. It needs to be whether platforms have actual knowledge of the grievous harms caused by content on their platforms.
Nora Benavidez, Senior Counsel and Director of Digital Justice and Civil Rights at the Free Press. Thank you. That does it, Caro, for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. I know, I'm sad too.
It was quite a serious way in which to enter the show, but it's a serious topic. We're going to keep on digging into it. But I hope you have perhaps a more light-hearted weekend ahead of you. But maybe tune in, if you can, to our podcast. You can find it on the terminal. You can go online on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeart. Wishing you a wonderful weekend, Ed. Without the wine, I hear that's up for Lent.
You too.